Hi guys, welcome to Recovery Talks 24/7. It's your host Joshua Munns again, and it's an absolute pleasure to have Garry Spriggs here with me and Nathaniel from New Hope, and they are the founders of New Hope Rehabilitation Centre. New Hope Rehabilitation. Thank you so much, guys, for coming on and being able to share together about what you guys get up to. It was amazing being able to have an interview with you, Garry, and you, Nathaniel, and your stories were really impactful. And I know there's a lot of people that would be very, very touched by your stories. So today we just kind of want to know what New Hope Rehabilitation is about and how it actually started.
Right, so we're going to go right back. I think it was 2017. It more started off as a dream, a hope. Yeah. Initially Garry had recently came out of rehab himself, and I remember sitting in an office and sharing the dream with Garry, I started to get a bit of help from different people to start to put something together, but nothing actually got going. And I say this right from the beginning because I got one of the most important life lessons, that no man is an island. And what I mean by that is I'd heard in the kind of around different communities and things that certain people was coming together and they wanted to set up something. And I heard my brother's Garry's name being mentioned. Yeah. And I went straight to Marcus. I said, Marcus, we've got to have Garry with us. We've got to have Gladstone with us. It was important that what I call the A-team, the very best in Nottingham City in terms of being able to make a difference in people's life. And it's not just a difference, it's a different difference. So on that basis, although we'd kind of got an idea in place and we got some structure in place, we never actually got anything off the ground. And we sat down with Garry and we sat down with Gladstone, and we shared, and everybody kind of inputted where they was at. Everybody went away and had some careful consideration. And it was upon that basis that we decided to come together and bring our skill base together and launch New Hope. And honestly, for me, I absolutely saw, because seeing Garry's passion and where he's coming from, Marcus's passion and where he's coming from, and Gladstone at that time, his passion where he was coming from, it was remarkable, and it was the missing link. I had an idea, I didn't have the means. I needed others. Does that make sense? And that's where New Hope was formed, and because of everybody's input, it gained momentum very, very quickly. And it was at that point, and I've been in recovery a good number of years, but it was at that point I learned a very valuable life lesson. And it's a life lesson that I can't, we can. So I'm going to hand over to Garry.
Fantastic. How you doing, Garry? You all right?
Yeah, we're good, thank you.
Fantastic. Yeah, very well, thank you.
Yes,
it's amazing what Nathaniel was saying there. You know, somebody can come up with the idea, but it's obviously I can't, we can. Powerful way of putting that. So Garry, you've obviously gone on board with Nathaniel, with Marcus. Yeah. So what's been your sort of role within that?
Well, in amongst, just to sort of jump into the sort of the backstory there, at that point, 2017, when Nathaniel was having the idea, and I understand there was a lot of research and activity, visiting properties and so on and so forth, before I'd even heard of New Hope or the project. At the time was working at the rehab that I'd sort of just completed, the treatment I just completed. I was volunteering over at that place, and I was also in conversations with a solicitor in Nottingham, who herself has developed her own service and ran services, and some of the safeguarding heads from some of the bigger names. So I was also in the meantime, while still in rehab, so doing a bit of research into what could happen in Nottingham as a city, who I could bring together, who I could get around the table, as Nathaniel was alluded to earlier. And I got a lot of people that wouldn't normally sit around the table to agree to sit around the table. And I was realising at that point that a lot of these people would sit around the table, A, because it was me, and B, because I didn't have a dog in the race. I had no ulterior motive. I was not, in any way. I didn't. So I got to hear and understand from the provider perspective rather than the service user perspective, right? And so all that knowledge, all that information, and then I got a phone call from that same solicitor who runs an organisation now in Nottingham to say, these lads are setting up, they're not going to do work without you. I suggest you give them a call because there's going to be a meeting, and that was that. So I'm in a position at that point where I'm like, wow, okay, I'm following a path that I believe God had put me on. I was being, obedient to what I believed was the right thing, and by doing that, all of a sudden, I'm off the M1 onto somewhere else, and so, and then of course you say, well, what is your role in that? Well, at the beginning, our role was lifting desks, hiring vans, cleaning office spaces, photocopying. It was all that, right? It was like people see what they see in any corporation, any business, but it starts with a few men or women or whatever, you getting together and doing everything. I'll just pass you to my colleague. Stay on hold. It's them styles, right? So we're doing all that, and then we came with a set of skills, and my skill set is from timeshare and direct sales and guerrilla marketing, the aggressive sort of, sort of thing. You will listen, you will buy, type background, direct sales, and Nathaniel had ran and managed and been in the services for a long time, and likewise Gladstone had, he was skilled in counselling, and so interpersonal skills and all that sort of motivational sort of stuff. And Marcus is a phenomenal businessman, and also an in-depth into how to deal with the councils and all those things that, I was absolutely ignorant to as a service user, who had then managed to get into the business world by just this, really, the stuff that I learned on the streets. I'd read a few books, amalgamated it and got a... So we all brought our own skill sets, but as Nathaniel spoke about, the passion, because I'm in a rehab planning a revolution. Nathaniel was dreaming about a revolution, and Marcus has already started one, in as much as he had a business that was caring for, those in need as well. And so the four of us together just really got it on. So our roles initially was whatever was necessary, but ultimately we knew that our skill sets would organically, I would be this, Nathaniel would be that, Gladstone will be this. That will happen. Gladstone will take care of the council and all that sort of stuff. So initially it was all hands to the pump, but organically we developed into roles, which my role is now currently partnerships and referrals manager. Which goes back to the marketing and the selling and that kind of thing, and the relationships with all the outside organisations.
It's very true though, and it's, each part kind of connects together, and it's what gets the vehicle moving. Do you know what I mean? There's probably people that have got amazing ideas, but you've got to have the right people to kind of jump on and do them things with, especially you've got lived experience as well with what you guys are doing, really does help. So surely when you guys now have, come up with this idea, you've got expertise, Garry, you've got expertise, Nathaniel, and then obviously you've got expertise from Marcus as well. There must have been some real tough times trying to pitch it to other people to kind of go, look, this is what we're kind of going to do. Did you have any sort of struggles through that at all?
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's really important to say at this stage that right from the beginning, we use the term our hard-won experience or hard-won experience. We... From being service users, we knew what the gaps were for people. There was a lot on offer for people wanting to get clean, but what about when people have got clean and they can't go back into their family situations? So we set our principle based on our own spiritual principles. We wanted to make sure, because of the gaps that we'd seen, that we was genuinely delivering a service or providing a service that meets the needs of people. And that went down to the type of accommodation people will be living in. Our mantra was, would we live here ourselves? And that's a standard we set. But we faced quite a lot of opposition, trying to source accommodation was a massive issue. The moment you mentioned that you're a addiction recovery, abstinence-based provider, landlords, it just, there was a lot of stigma attached to what we provide, or addiction, or people in recovery.
Yeah.
So we was very fortunate in that our first landlord that we started to work with, her father had alcohol addiction, so she's seen the trauma of that and things, so she was quite sympathetic to us. And that opened the door for us to get our first batch of accommodations and to get started. I think why I'm majoring on the core founders is it's absolutely crucial to our success. And that is that at every stage, there's been somebody there to help. So Marcus has got many years of experience. This is a man that didn't even leave secondary school with qualifications. And he has gone on and broke so many boundaries, and his heart is to help others that don't have the experience or expertise in certain areas, especially in the business world. And he became like a mentor to us. Do you get what I mean? So at each level, there's been somebody supporting. And once we got going, the demand for the services, we started in the middle of COVID, just before COVID. And whilst everybody was being heavily impacted, everybody was contacting, different services are contacting us, and so our service really grew through the times of COVID.
Wow, that's amazing. So obviously you've come up against, some struggles, but then also realise there's, let's use the word, like a niche in the market. There's a lot of people that do need the support, that do need the help. It's really sad though when you do mention the word, addiction, and that people kind of shy away from it, don't really want it. But now let's kind of move on to, you've got the properties now. You've got the people there that do need the help. So what's the whole sort of process, Garry, through getting this person in to getting the help that they need?
Well, that as well ties into, talk about the difficulties, because one thing that was clear is that there's a demand for this, and we as a service user myself, and having been involved with, or in, what do they call them, dry houses myself, you can see how what we've got on offer, we think people would be chomping at the bit. We'd have thought that the authorities would have been keen to provide us with referrals and all that sort of thing. And of course, the first things first, once you've got a property and the beds and everything in it, and the staff to provide the support, then you need the people to support, right?
Yeah.
And where do we find these people? Is it probation? Is it the council? Is it where they're coming from? We looked at, we look at people that are exiting rehab, that have managed to get clean in the community, or prison, or what have you. So, the process is initially a referral from somewhere, from somebody that has managed to achieve abstinence. That's how we started. Abstinence-based supported living provider. But abstinence-based, you have to be clean. You have to have achieved, abstinence before you get to us. And that's difficult, because the minute the authorities or probations or whoever, whoever we're marketing to sees addiction or recovery, they just send guys that are, still bang at it, still got no inclination or no want to stop using and stuff. So, there was a lot of issues there, it becomes difficult as a lived, experienced provider to have some sort of credibility. We'll say it was difficult for us to prove, if you like, our credibility, and we also start to understand the landscape a little bit in specific local authority areas, in as much as they had problems with, we'll call them rogue providers in the past, and so therefore you're always going to be stigmatised. These are lived, experienced providers, CICs, supported living providers, and we don't get invited to the party. We just sort of rock up, and say, right, we're going to do a job for you. Now pay us for the job. So we appreciated and understanding that, but we also understood the problem And it was as if, initially for me at least, because I was complaining to Nathaniel, it's like they're ignoring the problem. The problem is men and women are dying on the streets from drugs because they have no safe place to go after or during getting clean. And I couldn't wrap my head around. We're offering the solution, and yet there's a level of seeming disdain here. Now, nobody actually said anything that was offensive or wrong, but it was just, it just became, I became acutely aware of how difficult it was to be able to provide a service that was clearly necessary. And you speak to some people that are still advocates of ours, are still, adversaries of ours, who says, "Oh, at last, fantastic." I'm thinking, "Oh, my job's going to be easy, the referral guy. I'll sit back and I'll just pour in, right?" Because everyone's saying, "Oh, at last, we need this, fantastic." And I'm saying, "Well, where's all the referrals then? Where's all the..." I know they're out there. Where is it? So, processes, we've got the property, we're looking for the referrals. The referrals do start to come in. The relationships do start to sort of, mature, and we get a constant flow of referrals. And then, of course, you have to assess them, assess their need, and are we compatible, right?
Yeah.
Because New Hope do this. This is what we do. We don't do that, we don't do the other, we do this. We are helping you to maintain a recovery, abstinence-based recovery. We've managed to achieve what we've managed to achieve based on these principles, following this path. So we will teach you what we know. But of course, if you don't want that, then that's fine, that's okay. We're not, but if you come here, it's this. So, yeah.
No, it's brilliant. It's amazing, obviously, like you guys have said, Garry, as well. You guys have a certain way with dealing with things. It's a no-abstinence place. I could imagine it was quite difficult as well, getting all the different referrals that are coming in and people just going, "Oh, he's an addict, but we can put him in here," and it must have been really, really difficult. But especially when, you got what you guys do is to let everyone out there know as well. I'm a resident, at your property, and it's absolutely amazing, I've got to say. Completely changed my life around. It's given me a new, leaf of life, and the support that I get is next to none, So in regards to now, so let's move on to when the resident, so male or female, because obviously I forgot to mention, you do have a female house as well. So when the resident does come in, there is some form of a key worker that's in place, right?
Absolutely. So in the supported living, whether it's a male provision or the woman's provisions, we are able to provide a certain amount of support each week. Because it's supported living, we are accommodation provider with support. So each person should receive up to 3 hours of support each week. That can be made up of their one-to-one support session, where they're looking at benefit issues, urgent medical matters. There might be issues where they need somebody to advocate on their behalf, because a lot of the time people are coming in and they're coming with the wounds of addiction. So they've lost their voice, they haven't got the confidence. Helping them to develop their resilience, their self-esteem, getting them engaged in community activities. So it's a whole array of different support packages that we can provide. On the men's side, we have our own recovery group that we encourage all of our residents to attend. That's really, really important. And then gently moving on towards independent living. What are your plans for the future? Some people come and spend time with us, they gain the necessary skills, and they may go back to the family situations. Some people can't because of the damage, the wreckage of the past. So it's helping them gently to move forward with their life with support. Now, we do run a strict ship, and there's a reason behind that. And it's because of our experience, what has worked for us. We will move heaven and earth to help an individual that wants a help. And I kid you not, and I think it's important to say that, because New Hope has been built on a lot of sacrifice. Our families have missed out on such important time because we sacrificed for a period of 2 to 3 years day in, day out, a lot of sacrifice to get where we are. And my word sacrifice doesn't do it justice. I kid you not. So I'm saying that to say that we're extremely passionate and we will do our very best to help anybody. Unfortunately, not everybody wants it. So in those cases, we either move them onto an alternative accommodation provider, or some people may go back to rehab and things like that. So yeah, that's just a bit of a flavour. But in the kind of the root of what we're doing was we're helping people to sustain their recovery and gain the skills to go and live their life and do amazing things like yourself. And you know what? Some of the stories of people coming through New Hope and going on to doing great things in their life, that's why we set up New Hope. It's beyond our expectation, the camaraderie that we see amongst the residents. So a new person comes through the door. There's residents from different houses. They're interested in them. You know, they've only met them the first day. I'll meet you tonight. I'll take you to a meeting. The community the recovery community, we're looking at it and thinking, wow, look at this. Do you get what I mean? So it's much bigger than ourselves individually. It's the essence of it. This is what recovery does, if that makes sense.
Yeah, definitely. No, very powerful. It's the proof's in the pudding, as my mum always used to tell me. You look at some of the proofs in the pudding, and definitely when it comes to, you know, sacrifice, you guys have done so much, you know, and just having an impact on my life and seeing other gentlemen as well that I've bumped into that are in New Hope as well and having an impact on their lives. And I know there'll be many more lives that are going to have an impact on in many years to come, you know, and I pray that for you guys 100%. So Garry, would you say there's maybe a story that you can share that's kind of really stuck with you with a gentleman or a lady that's come through to New Hope that you maybe want to talk about or share?
Well, it's difficult to think of one, and as I'm
there's probably many.
Along, one will come to me, I've no doubt. But as I am the referrals manager, right, everybody that comes to New Hope comes through me. So we have to have a conversation, and then we'll decide whether or not, once your risk assessment is in, are you too much of risk? Can we cope with your needs? Are you you know? And so we have those conversations, and a lot of men, and it's by design, have a very difficult time with me in their initial assessment process and period. And so when you consider men that are sat in homes, one guy in particular I'm thinking about, painted the picture really well. Garry, right now I'm sat in a room, the windows are cracked, there's just me and the dog, there's hardly anything in it, and I'm looking at them bits of cocaine that's left in them, a couple of bags. You know, he's painted a picture of the life that he's currently living, right? And, you know, I was not about to helping to continue in that lifestyle with feeling sorry for the lad, right? So I set about painting some truths and how he's happened to get in that, and that's based on my own experience, and it can't be denied. And I get feedback along the lines of, no one's ever put it that way to me before. And that's not because I'm a highly intelligent, some sort of genius guru. That's because I went through the rooms of recovery. I was taught what I was taught. I practiced that in my life, and I've realised that, you know, my inability to take responsibility for my life was creating my own problems. I got that after a while, okay? And so if I can impart that wisdom to the individual, and it's so, I've just recently the director of another rehab, we'll take one of the gentlemen tomorrow, and at the time I could tell that he was not really enjoying the conversation with myself. It's very rarely a conversation, it's usually one-way traffic. He spoke to the director of the rehab that he's leaving, and he's saying, wow, that Garry, man, I didn't like what he was saying to me yesterday, but having sat with it overnight, it's like all that he's saying was really true and all that. And the director phoned me to tell me that, you know. So one individual case, not really. I mean, I think about the conversation I had with the cameraman. I think about the conversation I may have had with you. It's all pretty much the same and similar, really. Depending on your background, depending on your attitude, depending on where you're coming from. If you're coming from a jail, it's a different conversation, but round about the same. So there's many men. I mean, we currently have 2 full-time staff at the moment that are both, came through supported living. One came from a rehab, one came straight from the streets, ruined with cocaine and other substances, alcohol and stuff. And they are now working full-time guys that are key working other men. They're in recovery, doing well. They're engaging well in their own social life and their own relationships, and they're healthy men. And, so these members of staff, I know what New Hope has done for my life, and I know what New Hope has done for other members of staff, So I would say this tonight, I don't want to overlook. It's all right as looking at the miracles and those of the service user, but also the impact it's had on the staff. I mean, the other director, Marcus, he says it. He's highly influential. He's got lots of business associates and all that. He says the biggest thing on his heart is New Hope and all the things he's been involved with over the course of his lifetime. This is it. Knows very little about recovery and all that kind of thing. We've all got life, we're grown people, but his heart is in it. So it'd be unfair of me to try and focus on one. But it's impacted on members of my family, it's impacted on the lives of the staff. And as I say, I don't know, I'm not sure, you can get up to 40, 50 referrals a month coming in. Not everybody gets an assessment. It can be knocked back at the point of the risk assessment, just not suitable. It cannot get past assessment stage, but ultimately everybody that gets to New Hope, we've scrutinised to the best we can. Are we suitable for them? Are they suitable for us? Then they have a very difficult time with me on the assessment, and then at that point, if we're of an agreement, and not I appreciate it. If I need to be a woman called Sharon to get what I want as a using addict, I'll be a woman called Sharon, right? I'll tell you what you need to hear, and I'm not beyond being fooled at all, I accept what a lad says to me based on his desire and what he wants to tell me. I'm ready, I'm up for it, that sounds great, oh please, I'll do it, it's great, that's what I've been looking for and all that kind of stuff. 2 days later we find him up in the bedroom, drunk as a lord. Happens, right?
Yeah.
So, impact, I think if anything, the people that don't make it through New Hope impact me the most, I think, in this moment, thinking about that. The people that come to New Hope and don't take it on, and we haven't ended up putting them on trains. In one instant, and it wasn't me, it was Nathaniel, informed them of death and stuff, one occasion. Thank God it's only been the one occasion, but again, just to put some sort of context around that, the gentleman refused to talk to me because he just didn't want to hear the truth. And then the next time I hear his name, we found him at Christmas time-ish, dead in one of our beds. So they're the ones. So God bless him and his family, actually thinking about this at this moment. They're the guys that don't make it, that can't take on the guidance, that can't do what you lads do, go to meetings and be honest and talk about the difficulties and the hidden stuff that we'd never tell anybody. Those lads do well and they go on. So lads that don't really, and I think of all the times that Nat and I have had to drive from Nottingham to Derby or on our own missions, whatever, and see police arrest men brutally and on the back of the phone call either to make and over to evict and all sorts of things, But we've got better and slicker, and our eviction process now is very rare that we have to even do an eviction. I can't remember the last time we actually evicted anybody. We put them, as Nathaniel was saying, in other providers or in rehab. There's a bit of recycling going on occasion. But it's a pity that not everybody takes it on.
Yeah, thank you, Garry. I think that's quite a powerful statement that you said there, remembering the ones that touch you the most is the ones that come in New Hope and they don't want to get the help. And I think it's important for people out there to understand that as well. There is so much pain, there's so much problems going on out there that a lot of people that don't understand about addiction, this stuff happens, this stuff goes on. And it's amazing that you guys provide a service for people like myself, for people like the cameraman, for people like, you know, other guys that I've met, you know, that have come from really rough, horrible backgrounds, you know, either drugs, alcohol, or may have just had, you know, issues going on at home. And I think it's amazing what you guys do. And there definitely will probably be people that listen out there going, do you know what, I didn't even hear about that. And do you know what, there's a lot of people I hear when I speak to them, they say, they're like, I didn't hear about that. I didn't know about, you know, that company. I didn't. And it's sad because, you know, you go on Google and it's like, it's right at the bottom, or, you know, you research up something, it's like, it's done by word of mouth. So I really hope today that, you know, this message will get out there and people will be able to hear about what you guys provide and you guys offer. So I want to hear from both of you really. What sort of message would both of you would like to give to somebody that may be listening, you know, lest that be a family member that has got somebody in their family that's struggling and they might need some help or a bit of an encouragement? What would you kind of share with them today, Nathaniel?
I think it falls nicely on what I want to say. You know, we have many inquiries, people calling up. There's often misconceptions. There's a lot of private rehab centres or detox centres, and families can't afford, and sometimes they end up getting loans out to send their loved one to a 4-week stay, which is not really dealing with the problem. It's just the start of the journey, and there's a lot that's not seen. So Garry will be day and night taking calls, and it's not necessarily people that are coming to us, people that, you know, mums, fathers, uncles, they're at the wit's end of what to do. And it's not that we can assist directly with their loved one, but what happens is it's the advice that they are given. Do you get what I mean? And we have relationships with parents we've never even met, because they've reached out at a time and Gary's given his wisdom and he's given his time to share with them and help them through their circumstances, how they can manage, because addiction doesn't affect just the person that's going through it. It affects everybody connected to that. So, you know, my simple advice is, you know, reach out. We're just one provider. There are many fantastic providers out there. Something's really, really important, lived experience. My experience of lived experience providers, people that have been there, that have genuinely made the changes in their life and now helping others, are 9 times out of 10 the best people to be able to assist people going through certain issues. Yeah. So from a help point of view, New Hope are here. If we're not the service for you, we can direct people in the right direction. We have a network of providers that we can confidently recommend. That's one thing to look at. But one other thing I want to say, and it's around the theme of lived experience. You know, we had a dream. We've been given the privilege of being responsible for caring for men and women, and we don't take that privilege lightly. We hold it dearly. But for people that have been through addiction, you know, whether it's addiction or been through difficulty, and you've got a desire to turn that around and use it for good, I will tell you today, it is possible. You have the right people around you, and you're able. It's nothing special about us. We are following what we was taught in our recovery, and through our gratitude for getting a second chance at life, we're now pouring out and doing something. But for yourself, you're now beginning to follow your passion based on what you've been through. I want to say really that you are able to turn your life around and go on to make a massive difference in this world based on what you've been through. That is possible.
Awesome, Nathaniel. What about yourself, Garry?
Yeah, I mean, there's nothing really to add. You know, the help is out there for sure. I remember many years running around Nottingham City on the streets and wherever, actually, you know, exclusive to Nottingham. I did a lot of running away in my time, and never knew about the help that was available. And then you discover there is help, and you just realise how much help there actually is. You know, so again, you know, you can't cultivate love in isolation. No. So whilst you're sat on your own, that's not going to help. And I don't know really what much to say after that. There is help out there. There just is. And, you know, we deal with men and women that have serious drug issues. And to get to that point, you've had to put in some effort, right? I mean, I'm finding drugs at 4 o'clock in the morning in a city that I've been here 3 weeks, committed, you know. I've found what I need to find. One way, by hook or by crook, I'm getting what I need. And if we can apply that amount of effort into killing ourselves with substances, 50% of that effort will do, because I know what it takes to sustain them sort of drug habits. And as I say, it's been a lot of faith, there's been a lot of effort, and actually it's been an absolute privilege. When I think about, I just want to difficulty. The whole thing has just been a ride, right? It's just been a ride. It's just been that. I personally have never. It's just been so evident. Oh, this is just going to be, you know, this is going to be a success. I remember saying to Nathaniel, and again, the people that you have around you. I trust these men that I work with, right? I trust these men. I'm human. We all human. We all got our faults, but I trust the people I'm around. All right, and that's not just business. If we have a group that's outside of business where we get honest and real with each other and all that. So it's all about the relationships, man. If you're suffering with addiction and you know you've tried it your way, your own way the whole time, it's time to try something different. You know, it is just that. But it just takes effort. Nothing happens by osmosis, does it? You know, the amount of effort it takes to get ourselves in that position, desperate, dying, wanting to commit suicide. Unless someone can give us some more drugs, of course, that changes the landscape. More drugs usually, you know. But they got to a point where no amount of drugs or alcohol or anything could stop the pain that I was feeling. You think about death, and then I don't know. You reach out for help, and abracadabra, here we now are. So yeah, New Hope, called New Hope for a reason. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. Guys, thank you so much for coming on today and just sharing, you know, about New Hope. You know, I had an amazing time with hearing your story, Garry, and yours, Nathaniel, and just to hear how you guys have started up New Hope, what amazing work that you're doing. You know, definitely I'm a testimony in itself, just sitting here in front of you guys for what you guys have done for me. And I know there's going to be many, many more testimonies out there. Definitely at the end of this, you know, I will pass on some information that are going to be on to people as well. So if there is something that somebody's listened to this story today and they go, do you know what, I think that place would be brilliant for this person, definitely put them in contact with you, Garry. I'll put their, you know, your main contact numbers on there, and the email address as well, so they can reach out to you. But guys, thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
Thank you.
And you take care. Cheers. Thank you.